It would be easy to argue that Alaska is the toughest environment, the most difficult, the most challenging to guide anywhere in the world. Very easy to argue that. Your number one qualification is, do you want it? You gotta love it. Those pilots, to learn the skill to land in the places where they land and to pay for the crashed airplanes that they crashed, learning that is the stuff that people don't talk about. There's always going to be people chirping on the sidelines that think they know it all. Those people, quite frankly, they don't know crap. Until you've been there and done it, until you've walked a mile in people's shoes, you don't know what it's really like. This video is a long time coming. I've been meaning to do it for a couple of years, and I just kind of had it on the docket this week that I was going to film this video. This is the most common question that I receive outside of general Alaska hunting inquiries, and that is how to become a hunting guide, and also just general questions related on what the guiding lifestyle is like. How do you guide long term? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And just yesterday, a good friend of mine, an outfitter in Alaska, he said, hey, I just had a packer quit on me. And before you ever guide in Alaska, you got to be a packer. You got to have some sort of hunting experience. If you're an Alaska resident and if you hunted there a lot, and you know some outfitter that'll give you a letter of recommendation, if you have enough experience, you could, maybe become a hunting guide. But even then, that said, you need 30 days minimum of in the field experience under the supervision of an outfitter. And we'll get into like the nuts and bolts and the black and white requirements of guiding. But just to start out here, I'll share this story. This friend of mine who had the packer quit, he said, hey, he just mentioned that to me, and I said, hey, I'll put something on social media and hopefully we'll get this slot filled. And so this was the posting that I made and generated a ridiculous number of comments. And so it was funny that I was planning to do this video this week anyways. And here's the post. It said, Alaska job opportunity. If you're looking to be lonely, cold, tired, wet, miserable, and have the adventure of your life from mid-August to September 15th in the wilds of Alaska, a friend of mine is looking for a packer. For 40 days, you will be a human mule. You will get little to no sympathy and most likely work harder than you ever have before while receiving little pay. Must be able to carry 100-pound packs for many miles over rough terrain. If you're still interested, shoot me a DM. I will send you the outfitter's contact info. Serious inquiries only, please. Those who have their moms message me will not be considered. So it really, the whole thing is actually quite serious. I was maybe throwing a little bit of humor in there, but the reality of it is it's not something you want to oversell. You want to winnow out the chaff, wean out the chaff. Get rid of the fluff. Get out of the people that are just thinking about it, right? And most of the people kind of got it. There was a few got a little bit of friction, and you're always going to do that. That's people, and one of the guys particularly gave some friction. I think he was like, well, what? You don't have to treat them like crap. It's like, it's not treating them like crap. Like, if you guide, and particularly in Alaska, it would be easy to argue that Alaska is the toughest environment, the most difficult, the most challenging to guide anywhere in the world. Very easy to argue that. And not to say that there's not other challenges to be had anywhere, but if you're guiding most places, if you're remote, backpacking, and if you're in the wilderness of Alaska like I have done and many others have done, we're talking 120 to 150 days out of the field would be pretty extreme, but a lot of guys, 80, 90, 100 days out of the year in the bush of Alaska, sometimes for stints of 40 to 50 days straight. It's tough. And you are going to have some of the worst days of your life doing that. You are going to be hungry, lonely, tired. You will get no sympathy. ran on a broken back for a few years, and well, for many years, but where it was really, really bothering me. Herniated discs in my back, and I know guys that have fractured their pelvises and fractured their feet, and they continued on guiding. It's freaking brutal. So if this is something you want to do, you gotta want it more than anything else. Everybody thinks about their qualifications. Your number one qualification is, do you want it? You gotta love it. And it can't be something, it really can't be something that you want to do. It's got to be something that you have to do. You can't stand the thought of not doing it, then you're probably ready. And so at the end of this video, I'm going to share a personal note of a young packer who became a guide that I kind of helped spur along a little bit. And so try to get this all-encompassing. It's going to be fairly comprehensive, I'd like to think. There's going to be a lot of personal anecdote. This just isn't the nuts and bolts. I'm going to try to take you down, probably going to be taking you down some rabbit holes into some little nuances of what it's really like. From the physical and the realities of guiding, the emotional, the spiritual, all that stuff. That's what we're going to share in this video. So if you don't love being a hunting guide, it will probably be the worst job you've ever had. And I would dare to say probably 50%, in my experience, more than 50% of the people that set out, definitely more than 50% of the people that set out to be an Alaska hunting guide, they never even get to guide status. They never graduate, so to speak. They never get past packer because it's difficult. And so you're going to be pushed and you are going to be challenged. So the pros of being a hunting guide are this. You're going to have amazing adventure. You're going to meet incredibly interesting people from all walks of life. That has been one of the best benefits for me as a guide over 25 years. That's been one of the greatest blessings of my life. Outside of my wife and my kids, that right there are the people that I've met. That said, I've met some ding-dongs as well. You are going to get a great education. Those people that I've guided, most of which have been 10 to 30 years older than me throughout my life, most of them have been the greatest mentors in my life. You're going to get paid to go hunting. That's cool. That's why I started guiding. The good days are outstanding. Being in nature, man, I love that. I always say what I love most about being an Alaska hunting guide is the wilderness immersion. I really love that. You get lots of downtime. That's my favorite. Most people think, oh, I bet you're out here, guide tags out and I'm there 4 days by myself waiting for my next client. People think, oh, that's really got to suck. I'd be bored. And those are the best days, honestly. I love that time. Gives you time to read, time to think, time to contemplate, and perhaps the best pro is you discover who you truly are. You meet all these different people, you get different perspectives in life, and you get out of the rut, the chaos, the everyday life, and I love being in the wilderness for that reason. The cons of being a wilderness guide, again, particularly in Alaska, we're talking about really remote type situations here. I go on the internet and stuff too, but I really enjoy when you're off the grid. That's heaven for me. So the cons are you get lots of downtime. The cons are you discover who you are. You're going to figure out the things you don't like about yourself. It's like looking in, there's no mirror, but that's when you're truly looking in the mirror. The bad days of guiding, they're brutal. They're horrible. You will question everything you've ever thought before in your whole entire life some days. Here's the thing. No amount of money is going to carry you through those bad days. And so when I made the post about the money, and some people were saying, well, the reason why you don't have a packer is you're not paying him enough. It's like, no, that ain't it. You gotta get the guy who wants it. That's what an outfitter who is going to or consider hiring you, he's not so much interested in what you've done, what you know. he's more interested in what you're willing to do, and that's true with any blue collar job. If you're the guy that just says, hey, if an old timer actually posted on this post, a guy by the name of Phil Shoemaker, highly regarded brown bear man, rifleman, good dude, great outfitter. He said, if the first question somebody asks me is how much do I get paid, he goes, I simply just tell him I don't think this job is for you. Because he knows if money is anywhere in your top 5 or 10 criteria, the odds of you making it are next to nil. You gotta want it just to do it for the experience, and that's what's gonna make a good hunting guide. It's dangerous. I know several guides that have died doing it. Very dangerous. The airplanes, the bears, I've almost died a couple of times. I've been hit by boats, charged by bears, gone down in rivers. It's dangerous. Not a very good testimonial for me as a guide, but it happens. It's lonely. It's physically demanding. You will be cold, wet, miserable, and hungry. You will be poor before you get established. It's going to take you a while. You're going to have to buy some good gear, and in my experience, I sure didn't get paid a lot starting out, particularly as a packer. You're going to get next to nothing, and we'll talk about that. There's no insurance, no benefits. Most outfitters are going to pay you as a subcontractor. Yeah, there's just a lot of expense involved in guiding, and we'll talk about pay here in a little bit. It's very hard on relationships, very hard. That's a big reason why a lot of people don't, I would say your average guide in Alaska, let's say, is probably about 4 to 5 years. You know, guys start out early in their life, and it creates hardship on a marriage, and they can't go any farther. A lot of guides, they might guide a few years, and then they'll hang on and they'll do like 1 or 2 hunts a year, kind of a working vacation type thing. You see that quite a bit, particularly on Alaska residents. So it's difficult to do long term because there's a lot of strains on it. It takes up a lot of time. In a 10-day hunt, you might have 15 to 16 days invested in that one 10-day hunt with the travel and all of those things. So what do guides get paid? In Alaska, I would say it's average of $300 to $500 a day, depending on what you're doing, what you're hunting, different species. The outfitter's making more money. You got the outfitter who is arranging the hunt. Oftentimes he's the pilot. He may have a crew of 1 or 2, maybe as many as 10 guides out in the field. And so the outfitter is kind of arranging that, and then he's sending the hunters out into his various camps. That's just kind of a general overview of what a Alaska hunting camp would look like, and maybe any camp out in the West as well. So $300 to $500 a day plus tips. Tips, in my experience, I believe in tipping on performance. As you get a 1 or 2 year guide, he can't bring you the same value that a 10 to 20, 30 year guide can. I just saw a post on social media. It said, remember to tip your guide a minimum of 15%. I've seen some 15% tips. I've seen some 20% tips. Is about the best I've seen. My personal experience, 5 is, if you don't get much of a hunt, 5%. I suppose if it's bad enough, you don't tip anything, but 10% I would say is pretty average, maybe a little bit on the lower side. 15% I've always considered is quite good, so take that for what it's worth. 20% would be exceptional. So yeah, an Alaska guide, if you're really doing good, you got a great outfitter that's paying you well, you're doing high-end hunts where they can afford to tip you or to pay you that, you might make 20 grand a month plus tips, which sounds great, but there's usually a lot of sacrifice that comes with that. Generally, there's a lot of expense in travel, guide licenses, equipment. You're providing a lot of your own equipment. You're gonna be hard on equipment. Packers, so the Western U.S. guide pay, you're looking at $150, maybe $500 a day. I would say most of these elk outfitters and guides probably $200 to $300 a day. If you're getting on private ranches, Might be getting $500 a day if you're really experienced and getting some high level clientele. And I would say a lot of that type of guiding, it all comes down to dealing with people. The hard nose, oftentimes some of the best hunters are not the best guides. They're good at killing animals, but they're not necessarily good. Oftentimes they're not great at dealing with the people and making their dream hunt a reality. And so you're in the people business, and I'll talk about that as we go along. If you're looking to hunt Alaska for brown bear, grizzly bear, black bear, moose, caribou, mountain goat, or Dall sheep, I'd be happy to help.
Oh, that was fun.
My guiding availability is limited, but I've got a network of outfitting partners across Alaska who can give you the adventure of a lifetime. If not Alaska, I can also help you find your next hunting adventure in New Zealand, Africa, Canada, or the Western US. So check out our website, shoot us an email today, and together, let's make your dream hunt a reality. Packers in Alaska, and this is probably going to be about true with like wranglers or packers in the lower 48. You're going to get $50 to $200 a day plus tips. If you're getting $200 a day as a packer, you can probably expect to be slogging moose nonstop, right? If you're working with another outfitter who he's going to let you come along on the hunt, you know, some outfitters, they're gonna have a packer for 30 days or 20 days, whatever, and basically anytime a moose is dead, they're gonna fly that packer in there, and his job is to haul meat as fast as he can and then contact him when he's done, and they're gonna move you to the next one. Those guys are probably getting $200 a day, probably an average of $300 to $600 per moose on the pack out. And most guides are helping. I think I've always helped on every single one. Some guys not so much. They'll just let the packer do all the work. So yeah, you might be able to make in a month. You might make 10 grand as a packer, but you're gonna earn it. So I would personally try to get with an outfitter that's going to bring you along on a hunt where you're going to get more time of observation. You're not going to get paid as much. I know some outfitters, they won't pay anybody at all. They'll pay your airline ticket to come up, or if you stay the whole season, they'll pay your ticket and they might give you a little bonus at the end. You'll get tips, that sort of thing. But you're going to be getting experience, and what most people don't recognize is that outfitter has a ton of investment in that packer before they ever produce anything, because they're going to be flying you around, feeding you, all those things. So you got to pay your dues. Once you're established and you become a guide and you've got 2-3 years of experience, work is going to be really easy to come by, and then you can start making some money. And I'll talk about making a living on guiding later in the video. So a big question, perhaps the biggest question I get asked involving guiding, is a guide school. Guide school is a lot like college. You don't need it, but it's probably more valuable than college, actually, in my opinion. You don't need it, but it opens some doors for you. So the pros of a college or a guide school is it gives you a head start. It shows that you have commitment, and it's a short-term investment to see if you really want to do it, right? You'll get there and you'll get some general exposure, and much of a guide school they're not going to teach you how to hunt. You kind of got to know that or have some natural instinct in that, but they're going to teach you how to pack on horses and mules, start fires, maps, compasses, GPSs nowadays, dealing with clients, working with tack, a lot of these basics. And so they're just going to cover a lot of very basic things. It just kind of serves as a foundation of sorts. Usually they're going to help you find a job. They're going to line you up. They're going to have outfitters. They're going to be contacting them, looking for someone to help. So it's just a place to get started. I went to a guide school because I didn't know where else to start. And I'm glad that I did it. It worked Don't have to do it, but it's definitely a good head start. The cons of a guide school is there's some investment there. Money, time. I think $4 to $5 grand is what guide schools are run nowadays. Typically they're about a month. Oftentimes you can contact that guide school if you're looking for work in other places. What I would do guiding in Alaska, my first job was in Idaho, so I guided in the Frank Church River No Return, I think 7 or 8 years. I'd get done in Alaska in October, and then I'd go to Idaho, and then I'd guide there anywhere from like a month, about a month and a half each year, maybe closer to 2 months, and then I'd come home first to the end of November. Yeah, so going to guide school if you want to try different places, if you want to try it out west, or yeah, that would be up to a guide school, but they're going to help you find a job. So a big thing you need to do, you're thinking about being a guide, is decide what you want to do and prepare to do it. Figure out what are your goals. Do you want to guide full-time or do you want to guide part-time? Where do you want to guide? What species do you want to guide? Do you want to guide in multiple locations? How long do you want to guide? Is this something you want to just do for a few years, kind of just to experience it, or do you think you want to make a career out of this? Those are all questions to ask yourself, and that's probably going to be a big factor in the decisions you make of how you go about it and who you choose to work for. Can you handle it? In Alaska, you're going to have to carry 100 plus pounds on your back for miles over uneven terrain. It's just the reality of it. To be an Alaskan hunting guide, here's the black and white requirements. You must be 18 years or older. You must have legally hunted big game in the state of Alaska for at least 60 days during 2 or more calendar years, and at least 30 of the 60 must be spent working in a guide camp or supervised by a licensed guide while performing guide-related duties. You must possess a valid first aid and CPR, and you must have a written letter of recommendation from a registered guide/outfitter. So that's how you become what the requirements are to be a guide in Alaska. Most of the western states are probably, in my experience, going to be a little bit easier than that. They're not going to require that much time. I was able to get a guide's license in Idaho right away just with a letter of recommendation. I think I needed first aid and CPR for Idaho. So it's all fairly simple. It just takes a little time to do. Alaska is the most stringent that I know of by a landslide, and you don't have to be a resident of Alaska to be a hunting guide in Alaska. I believe you've got to be a U.S. citizen. I believe there's a few Canadians and some New Zealand guys that have done it. I don't know if they're doing it legitimately or not. I guess they probably are. You probably get a work visa, I guess. But yeah, you can go there as a non-resident. That's what I've always done. I've never gotten residency in Alaska. There have been many years where I've lived in Alaska more than anywhere else, but I've always maintained my residency in Wisconsin, and I end up having to pay more. Like, I'm a registered guide or an outfitter, and I think it's up to like $1,800 a year, or every 2 years that I have to pay for that, where a resident, it's half that price. So here are some ways that you can prepare before, during, guiding, things that are going to make you a better guide. Work for a butcher. Learn how to deal with meat. It'll help you immensely knowing the cuts of meat. When it's raining and pouring, I think the first moose I ever butchered, I think it took me like 4.5 hours. The fastest I've ever butchered a moose is 1.5 hours. Took 20 some years to figure that out, how to do it better. Taxidermy. Work for a taxidermist. Get good at skinning. That will all help. Construction. If you know, they're always building in these camps. So if you have construction skills, that's going to add tremendous value to an outfitter. If you're looking for a job, that guy might want to build a camp ahead of time. It's like, hey, I know how to frame, or I know electrical or plumbing or whatever. That is going to help you get in your foot in the door, and it's going to make you valuable to your employer. Being a farrier, horsemanship, or wrangling. If you're going to work out west, having skills with horses is good. Another pro of a guide school is being able to work with horses. That's not a skill. If you want to jump in with somebody and quickly be an asset, you kind of got to have some basic horse skills. And by the way, if you're interested in a guide school, you can shoot us an email at office at BillyMollsAdventures.com. We can refer you to guide schools that I think would do a good job for you. So if that's something that you're interested in, let us know. Another thing you could do, learn aviation. Aviation, airplanes, that's the linchpin of an Alaskan hunting adventure. So if you want to get into guiding, outfitting long term in Alaska, you should definitely consider learning how to fly. There's a few areas where you can get by without it, but by and large it makes life a lot simpler, and that's why I never really pursued, I just decided the natural progression of guiding is to become an outfitter. And I started flying airplanes. I just didn't have a love for it. Got a pilot's license, flew Super Cubs, and it wasn't my thing. And that's when I kind of really thought, man, is this what I really want to pursue? Do I want to have a great big area and a fleet of airplanes and hire a bunch of guides? And I realized that's not what I wanted to do, and I just kind of continued on with the video production realm. Trapping. You'll learn a lot by trapping. Fishing, hunting, obviously. Guide people. You're a teenager and you want to be a guide, guide friends, relatives, guide some ladies. Good way to meet a good girl. Learn photography. That will be a huge asset for yourself to help market yourself as a guide. It'll help your outfitter. It'll help your own business if you become an outfitter someday. Physical fitness. Obviously, if you're in very good shape, that is only going to help you be successful, particularly on very arduous wilderness hunts. Learn social media. A lot of these, I would say a lot of people that are some of the best social media influencers, they're probably not everybody, but a lot of these guides, outfitters, any realm of life and any industry, the people who are best at social media, they definitely oftentimes are not the best at whatever their craft or trade is, but they market themselves well. And at the end of the day, that helps them. So a big question I get is, can I make a living off of guiding? I get a lot of middle-aged men. They're going through their middle life crisis that I think we all kind of do to some degree or another, or they go through a multitude of them maybe, but they don't do what they want to do early in their life, and then they get middle-aged, 30 to 45, and they want to change. What they're doing isn't working, and then they're like, hey, can I make this work? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's to become the obvious, like I mentioned, the transition is to make a living, a livelihood in the guiding industry. The most common, conventional path is to guide for a while, become an outfitter. To become an outfitter, it's probably going to take you at least 3 in Alaska. I mean, more or less 4, I guess. But you have to have guided for somebody for 3 years and guide a number of hunters. But you're looking probably 4 to 10 years before you can realistically pull that off. You need a good amount of experience. You could guide, if you're single, if you're raising a family, it's going to be tough. You could guide around the world if you're single. You could go to New Zealand, Africa. I know a lot of guys that have done that. You could do the western states. You could do some fishing. Go to Argentina. You could do it. That's going to come with some challenges of its own. But a big factor and something that I would really suggest is in the off season is keep your expenses low. Find a place to live. I lived with my parents until I was 25. I'd be home 4 months out of the year. But I had very little expense, so I didn't have to make a lot of money. I just focused on doing the things that I wanted to do, going to different places. Yeah, it would have been nice to have made more money than what I did, and I'm sure if I'd have tried, I probably could have made more money off of it, but I was more interested in the experience. And I would say over the long haul, that served me. In the long term, your experience, your foundation, the things that you learn, those are going to be more valuable to you than the little bit of money that you're earning on the front end. And quite frankly, just learning how to get by with little is a huge asset. So a good thing to do that helped me, like I mentioned earlier, is to learn a trade and have some sort of income outside of guiding. If you're a good worker, you're going to find work anywhere, anytime you go. But a lot of guys have made it work by doing construction. A lot of guys will be self-employed. I did I did framing, siding. Towards the end of my construction days, probably the last 5 years, I did roofing, more or less by myself because I could make pretty good money at it and I could do fast turnarounds. They weren't big jobs, you know, might only take me a couple of days to do a roof. If I was going to do a big tear-off project, it might take me a couple of weeks. But it was fast turnaround, and that way I could close out all my jobs before I left for 100 days in the fall. That served me pretty well. Another idea is just find a job that relates to the hunting industry. Maybe be a fishing guide. You'll get some crossover in your clientele. For me, it was writing, video production. I mean, I just did all these things just so I could somehow justify guiding. Obviously, what I did was kind of unique, but it kind of worked for me. Get into aviation, another opportunity, another thing. Again, in Alaska, a lot of people fly planes. How to find a job. People laugh at this, but I've had it many times. I get a lot of people asking me for a job directly or to help them, and it's pretty tough. I'm able to do it sometimes, but I mean, I know a lot of people, but usually it's going to come through first-hand recommendation, somebody who knows somebody. It's just like anything. It's like, hey, I know this kid. So I am extremely hesitant to refer anybody to anybody unless I personally know them. There has been a few times. One time I got a handwritten letter from a young man. He was a dairy farmer in New York, and he wrote me a letter, and I could just tell by his words that this kid wanted it. A young guy, Doug, well, actually he's not that young, he's not barely younger than I am. Pretty much an old man, Doug Elliott. He packed for me a couple of years. He was a farmer from Illinois. And the one thing that he said that made me realize, okay, this guy's going to stick, he said, I will not quit. And that was really about all I really needed to hear. It's like, okay, this guy wants it. He was kind of a middle-aged man, farmer, raising 5 daughters, and he just said, like, I want to experience what this is like. And he did a great job, went on to guide a couple of years. But don't have your mom email me or call me and tell me that, you know, that her son, I think, would do good at this. Right there, like, nobody's going to hire you. Because if you don't have the balls to call the outfitter yourself, if mommy's still doing it for you, you're not ready. Plain and simple. I would suggest you build a 1 to 2 page resume with 3 references and list your physical, maybe send a picture, your physical stature. I want, you know, nobody cares if you've got 24-inch pythons, but can you carry a heavy pack? You know, are you an athlete? What have you done that's physical? Show that you can do the physical stuff. If you've got any construction experience, because remember, when you show up, you're going to be the low man on the rung. You're going to be doing all the grunt work. So tell them what you're willing to do, and if you're worried about the pay, you stay home. Don't ask them how much you're going to get paid. Just tell them what you're qualified, and then you can maybe do that later on. But just share with them what you're able to do, what you're willing to do, more importantly. But just give them basic information. And I don't think it would hurt in this day and age to give like a 2 or 3 minute video, just a simple pitch about you and your goals and your aspirations. A little bit about your background. If you have farm, ranching experience, construction experience, you want them to know that you have grit and you won't quit. If you let them know that, then they're going to take you seriously. And then simply send that resume and that video to as many outfitters as you can find. You know, if you have somebody who can refer you to good outfitters, that's where I'd start. But the way I did it, I looked up. That's actually when I learned how to use the internet. I didn't know how to use the internet before that. I found every outfitter I could find, and I was writing handwritten letters back in those days, and that's kind of when I figured out how to do an email. We've got some exciting Billy Molls hosted adventures for 2026. First, we're going back to New Brunswick to fish giant lake trout by morning and hunt black bears by evening. I hosted a group here last spring, and because it was so well received, we're doing 2 weeks in 2026. So join us June 7th through 13th and June 14th through 20th.
30 inches, nice!
Next is the ultimate Alaskan fly-out, fly-fishing adventure with Rainbow River Lodge. The dates are June 27th through July 3rd, 2026. This place has to be experienced to be believed. Excellent food and accommodations, top-notch guides, lots of bear viewing, and truly world-class fishing in some of the most pristine waters in all of Alaska, and so much more.
Yes! Woo, that's huge!
My daughter and I did this trip last year and we had an absolute blast. So be sure to check out our website and shoot us an email, as many of our hosted trips fill up in weeks, even days. A huge thank you to everyone who's joined us on our hosted adventures. We've got many more in the works, and I hope someday to share a campfire with you. You do not want to necessarily work for the outfitter that is going to let you guide right away. This is huge. Learn. Find the best outfitter, the most highly regarded outfitter that is going to make you pack, and you might have to work for him for an extra year or two before you can guide, but more than likely you are going to get the best education and the most solid foundation, and usually you're probably going to get treated and groomed the best with an outfitter like that. The guy that might throw you in guiding right away that fall, if you're really green and he's talking about throwing you in guiding right away, why does he need a guide so fast? That's what I'd ask myself. So I know, especially as a man with pride, I was the same way. I was lucky. I was real lucky. Got on with a couple outfitters that really trained me quite well, and that served me over the long term. So just remember that you're building your foundation when you're starting out. You're not going to get rich your first couple of years. Regardless, you want to go for the experience and the adventure and safety. That's another big thing. So to succeed as a guide, you got to know that it's not about you. You're in the service industry. You're there. Your job, what will make you a good guide, what will increase your tips, is to recognize that you are there to make your clients' dreams come true, and you are there to serve the outfitter that you're working for. The hunting is the easy part. It truly is. There's going to be things that you're going to want to learn. You're going to pay attention and learn as much as you can from the old guides. But a lot of people think, oh, am I a good enough hunter? That's pretty far down the rung of being a guide. Serve your people, serve your boss, serve your clients, and you're going to succeed. If you do that, you're going to succeed at anything that you do. Outfitters and guides, pilots, they're going to be hard on you. They're not going to cut you much slack right away. Not to say that they're gonna whoop you or whatever, but they're going to test you. They're going to want to see what you're made of, and there might be a time. I know I had it. That's a whole nother story. But I had one guy that was a couple different times, guys that were dogging on me, and they were just pricks, and until I stood up to them. And so there's going to be a time where you're going to have to basically stand your ground, right? That's going to come, but be pretty slow to do that. Take it a little bit, keep your head down, work hard. They cross some lines. Yeah, speak up for yourself, stand up for yourself. But they're trying to break you. They're testing you because they want to know that when the going gets tough, are you going to fold? They want to know if you're tough enough to hack it, because that guide you're packing for, someday you're going to get into a rough situation. And all those little things, he's not going to coddle you because he doesn't want to string you along. It's actually one of the most loving things you could do, because if you coddle a packer and then all of a sudden one day, everything's great, the packs are easy, hunting is great, weather is nice, and then all of a sudden you get a 2-foot snowstorm and you got to shovel out a runway for 3 days, he wants to make sure, dang sure, that that packer that he's dragging along and investing his time in is going to be there when they really need him, right? That he's going to be able to pull his weight. So it's going to be tough to start, and you're not going to get much sympathy. Just know that going into it. But if you want it bad enough, you will find a way. And as I always say, the only thing that's rocket science is rocket science. It's all pretty simple. Like anything, you just simply start, work hard, and don't quit. So I'll share this message from a young Trevor. So you can actually find this film on my YouTube channel here on Modern Day Mountain Man YouTube channel. It was called He's Never Lost. And it was filmed, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. Shot this moose, had a long pack out. I think it was about two and a half, probably by the way of the crow, I think it was 2.2 miles. So probably by the time we walked around, side hill contoured, probably pushing 3 miles. And this young kid, he was a great kid. His name was Trevor from Montana. He was right out of high school, big, strapping kid. I nicknamed him Moose. He must have been 6'4", I'd have to believe, football player. And this kid, born in the mountains, northwest Montana, and he was ready, right? Good kid, soft-spoken, worked hard. First thing he did when he got to the moose, we killed the moose, called the pilot, and he dropped him off at the lake, and he headed right to us right away. First thing he did was grab a hindquarter. That's the attitude. That's what it takes. And it was just, for me, it was that stage in life where I realized, man, this came full circle a lot faster than I ever imagined it would. My original goal when I started guiding, I didn't really know. I didn't really have a definitive long-term vision. My thought was, well, just go there and try it. I knew that I wanted to do it. I had to do it. My thought was, well, I'll guide for 5 years and then I will have about seen it all. And I realized after 5 years of guiding is like I was just scratching the surface. You'll never figure it all out. That's what makes it worth doing. So this young Trevor, I posted that, I put that He's Never Lost film out on DVD for several years, and then we just posted it on YouTube. Part of the video was just talking to him, and Doug and I, the client, we had 2 full days of packing moose out. We had 1 day where Trevor didn't have to go anywhere. We just ate moose ribs. It was just a beautiful day. Just got to know Trevor, and for whatever reason, he's just a likable kid, and he seemed like he was receptive to, he asked questions, he was talking about getting married to his girlfriend. So basically, Doug and I were just pumping him full of life advice, and it was just a really, really awesome experience with that young guy. He said, "Hey Billy, it's been quite a while since we last talked, but I thought I'd reach out. It's funny, since He's Never Lost got put on YouTube, people have been calling me a celebrity. I would have reached out sooner, but I've been at work building Maddie and I a house and getting ready to go up spring bear hunting. It all keeps me pretty busy. Life has been full of blessings for me since that fall. I've continued a successful guiding career. I have some property with almost a finished house. I married the girl of my dreams, and I've had plenty of adventures along the way. Watching that film again brought back so many memories from those few days I packed for you. Want to let you know not a day goes by that I don't think about the advice you gave me that you mentioned in the film. Wanted to thank you again for that time I got to spend in camp and for your added inspiration to me, to being a good man, a follower of Christ, and an Alaska hunting guide. Hope all is well. Trevor, aka Moose." Man, that made my day. That right there is as good as any client's 10-foot bear or 70-inch moose. And he sent a few pictures along. That's my response was, "You made my day, brother. Thanks for sharing. Congrats on your success. Can't say I'm surprised. Excited for what your future may hold. Lord willing, we will share another campfire someday." Matthew 6:33, which is, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all the things we need will be added unto us." That's life right there. Those full circle moments. Everything in nature is created in that through its life, it gives life back to another organism. When you become a hunting guide, that is an opportunity for you to make grown men's childhood dreams come true. And that is to know the area that you hunt, the flora, the fauna, the wildlife, the plants, and then to give people an adventure that they couldn't do or achieve without you, that is a very rewarding, fulfilling thing. Yes, people can make money at it. There are there's guides that make a decent living, but it's hard. It is the collateral damage that comes with being gone for a long period of time. You really got to work at keeping that in balance, and I've learned that myself. Raising a family, it is not as easy as you'd think. Guides don't get as rich as you might think. You look at the price of these hunts, yes, they're very expensive, but those pilots, to learn the skill to land in the places where they land and to pay for the crashed airplanes that they crash, learning that is the stuff that people don't talk about. There's always going to be people chirping on the sidelines that think they know it all. Those people, quite frankly, they don't know crap. Until you've been there and done it, and that goes for anything. Until you've walked a mile in people's shoes, you don't know what it's really like. And it's simple economics. These hunts are expensive, and the demand is high. And if we see a recession or something, yeah, these outfitters are probably going to have a tough time. Right now, the demand is high. Prices are fairly high, but in Alaska, it's expensive to do business. I'm kind of going on a tangent. Probably that's another video that I'm going to do, is explain the differences in costs in different areas in Alaska. So I'll digress and get off of that tangent. But if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, a partner or maybe a sister video, if you will, would be over on my other channel, which I just started. It's called Billy Molls channel, just Billy Molls YouTube, and I did a video of how to become just about anything. It was kind of inspired by how to become a hunting guide, but it's just a lot of general principles of how to do anything. So if you're interested, you could check that out. If you'd be so kind, if you enjoyed this video, if you found value in it, please like, share, subscribe, and be sure to leave comments about this video if you'd like, but also other things that you're interested in about hunting in Alaska, guiding, gear, whatever it might be, and I'll continue to do some more of these guide rambling videos, try to add value to you personally in hunting as well. And as always, appreciate you watching, appreciate your support.